Greetings and salutations, viewers. I'm StarPrincessHLC, and welcome back to Autumn's Journey. When I last left off, Auralee got a bit of news from her two dragon friends that they were both keeping things from her. Ilmari, turns out, was not sent to watch Care. He just ran away from home because he was jealous that Care got to explore the human world when he couldn't. And Care was lying because he could transform and go back to being a dragon at any time, but he chose not to for the sake of seeing Auralee become a knight. So it seems like our friends were all hiding something, but everything's out in the open now. So now we're, I guess, gonna be checking something out. What are you looking at, Auralee? Once again, I stared at the bulletin board, trying to find something. Anything. I could tell it was nearing the end of fall because the herb gathering postings were gone along with the farm help. I want to be a knight before the postings are all requests for shoveling snow. True. Nobody likes shoveling snow. Come on, something. Anything. Another battle tournament? No, I give in to that. Care wins. It was then I noticed a posting that recruited both knights and knights in training. I hastily snatched it up, almost knocking down other postings in my rush. Huh, another escort mission. Haven't done that since we left Barry. Merchant Ventures. Name sounds familiar. Ah, it's a delivery to Norvale. That's pretty far. Swaying back and forth, I weighed my options. On one hand, it was a good opportunity to mingle with real knights. On the other, it meant leaving Oliver. I wondered whether my friends would be up for another long journey. I reread the posting multiple times before zeroing in on the deadline. Pretty soon I don't like making snap decisions without Care and Ilmari's input first. Maybe if I hurry I could... The receptionist, who leaned over with one elbow on the table, raised an eyebrow, amused by my indecisiveness. Rude much? I showed the posting to her, hoping for a second opinion. What do you think of this? Ah, this one. It'll definitely earn you some points towards your graduation to knight status. You're pretty close too, and this is a high-ranking request. Actually, you know, if you accept that posting, you'll most likely be knighted. I slapped the posting down on the counter. Right. Done. She accepted the paper and gave me a smaller note with directions, a meeting time, and names. Wow, looks like quite a few people accepted this one. Sounds important. Apparently the contents are very valuable, hence all of the bodyguards. There was something nagging at me, but the excitement of accepting such a critical task made me giddy. I practically sprinted out of the guild in the direction of the gardens, hoping to find Care and Ilmari there. To Norvale, huh? I don't know, Auralee. Yeah, it's a little out of the way, but it'll be a good experience, and we'll see a new town. I think they specialize in mining and all that. I'm sure the dragon altar there would be impressive. Not that you need to see them anymore, Care.
I don't care.
I don't care either way. Ilmari? What was the merchant company again? Merchant Ventures. A dark expression flickered across Ilmari's face. Is that related to the, guy we ran into last time who had a dragon artifact of some kind in his possession? Is that the same group we escorted when we left Barry? Oh, you're right. We did help them before. Are you concerned it'll be dangerous again? Don't worry, there'll be even more bodyguards this time around. However, Ilmari frantically shook his head as I explained. It's not that. When we escorted that carriage, and when that box fell, I saw its contents. I'm pretty sure it was dragon remains. A tense atmosphere engulfed us, and it took me a moment to register everything. What? What? No, that can't be! Are you absolutely positive? And you didn't tell us or our masters? Keeping something like this a secret is... Hear me out, I know I shouldn't have remained quiet about it. At first I thought I was wrong. I've never stumbled across dragon remains myself, and I'm not that familiar with Seraphis. But the feathers, the bones... I I knew if I reported this to Master Kaya, we would both immediately be ordered back, even if I was just guessing, no exceptions. I was selfish. I didn't want the journey to end so abruptly.
I'm sorry.
My master was right. I wasn't ready to be a representative for dragonkind. If I hoped to build a better relationship between our races, I shouldn't disregard acts like this. Kara peered at me dubiously. You had no idea something like this was going on?
What?
None. I wasn't aware of this at all. I paused, realizing I treaded on delicate territory. Foul implications aside, is there something wrong about possessing dragon remains? Kara and Ilmari stared at me as if I'd uttered a blasphemy in the church. I glanced down in chagrin. No one should be possessing dragon remains. What he means is, when a dragonkind dies, their body eventually returns to Ishtara. Earth dragons become the mountains, Urius become the rivers and lakes. Which is why we prefer to die in peace, where no one can find our remains. It's sacrilegious to disturb them, and any dragonkind that accidentally discovers them will immediately avoid the resting place. I highly doubt that Heavenkind got a hold of those remains with a dragonkind's blessing. No, a dragonkind can return to Ishtar if their remains are disturbed. So those people acquire their remains through furtive means? Maybe it was an accident? You did say even dragonkind could stumble upon them. Maybe the merchants had no idea those belonged to dragonkind. Kara glared at me accusingly. Yeah, I would say if it's, valuable enough for so many bodyguards, I'd say they know that they're screwing up. Are you defending them?
What?
What? No, I mean, I'm trying to make sense of this. I don't think my people would do something that disrespectful. Well, some people wouldn't do something that disrespectful. At least I'd like to believe that. We don't have much to go on. Now I can see why Ilmari was so hesitant bringing the box's contents up earlier. Too many questions and not enough answers. Everything regarding this was unsettling and ominous. I glanced down at my notes and saw the place and time to meet the carriage. It'll be leaving soon. You're still accepting the quest? Auralee, I don't want you getting involved with merchant ventures. Please reconsider. Kara placed a hand on Ilmari's shoulder. Let her do what she wants. I didn't say I would. I'm going to see if I can check the contents. Since Ilmari isn't 100% sure that he even saw dragon remains, right? He nodded meekly. I want to think I didn't. Then let's stop speculating and get some clear answers. I'll go. But what if the cargo isn't the same? The carriage is recruiting quite a few knights and senior KITs, so the contents should be important. It's possible that they're the same. What would Heavenkind want with dragon remains anyway? Wait here, if you accompany me, it'll definitely attract attention. I'll be back shortly. Maybe that's why the merchant who hired us in Barry was so nervous. He was being guarded by dragonkind. Ilmari appeared distraught by the idea of me going, while Kara simply nodded to encourage me. Don't take too long.
Let's do this.
Right, leave it to me. I broke off from the group and quickly left for the location indicated on the note. It said to meet just outside the city by one of the fields. I spotted a 2-horse carriage with the Merchant Venture sign etched on its side. There were only a few people outside the carriage chatting, so I knew I had arrived early. Discreetly, I approached the other side of the vehicle and peered through the window. Sure enough, there was a long ornate box similar to the one that we had escorted to Oliver. My fingers grazed the handle of the carriage door. I gave it a gentle tug, but it refused to budge. Damn it, I knew I should have taken lockpick as a skill. Foiled again. Or foiled already, I should say. As I pondered on whether to find an alternative, someone grabbed my shoulder. I whipped around, my hand rising to my hilt impulsively. It was an older man with short peppered hair and a sword at his hip. He frowned at me. What are you doing here? I pulled out my crumpled note. I'm a knight in training who joined this assignment. After examining me and my badge, he nodded curtly. Then you should probably act like one. Looking suspicious will get you instantly dismissed from the task.
Whoops, sorry about that.
I was curious, I'm sorry, being a KIT and all. Then take your position We will be leaving on our client's orders. We dispersed, and I glanced back at the city walls, fighting the urge to return to my friends. If I left now, I'd be removed from my mission anyway, and I still haven't seen what the cargo held. I would have to carry out my duty, at least until I had another opportunity to check the box. Sorry, Ilmari. This will take a little longer than I anticipated. Eventually, more knights, roughly 7 of them, and the merchant client, whom I overheard was called Dervishi, gathered around the carriage. Finally, the coachman hoisted himself onto the perch. I knew we would be setting off in a few minutes. I hope Care and Ilmari don't think I'm deserting them. I anxiously looked back, but as the horses trotted, I forced myself to follow the group. In a desperate attempt, I tossed the note on the ground, even though I was pretty sure the chances of the boys finding it were slim. Not like I had any other method of communicating with them. Cell phones hadn't been invented yet. I lingered behind, my eyes darting from one knight to the next. They were all in uniform, their breastplates shone brilliantly, and they each had a trusty weapon at their hip or strapped to their back. Usually I would be elated just to be in their presence, but my mind was on other things. The city of Oliver vanished from sight as we entered the northern forest. Unlike the birch forests surrounding Barry, these trees were thicker and the terrain even more rocky, although still a far cry from mountainous. I did my best to remain reserved, but Lady Bayard's name was brought up and the knights asked me many questions about her and me. Yep, that's my mom. A few were interested in my sword skills since she had personally trained me. That's still really all they perceive when they see me is my mom. We did not make our first stop until mid-afternoon. As the knights ate, talked, or went for scouting, I approached the carriage again. Although I did not have a chance to physically check the box, maybe Dervishi would let something slip about the contents. The carriage door was open. Dervishi sat inside comfortably, talking to the prominent knight with the peppered hair who casually stood by the vehicle. Rather terrible design flaw. One stiff strike to the chest and the sternum will shatter. Which is why, even if it's aesthetically pleasing, it's not ideal in actual. Eavesdropping isn't helping either. What are the chances I would catch important information anyway? Giving up, I sidled away from the carriage. About the contents. Wait! Surprised, I turned around, only to slam my knee into the wheel. Ouch! That's why it's never good to be a third wheel, folks. Ow! As I rubbed my leg and stood up, the knight peered around the vehicle and spotted me. Did you need something?
Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to ask how much longer a break would be. No more than 10 minutes. Relay that to the others. Right, I'll do that. Curse my clumsiness! I gave an awkward salute and hobbled away, berating myself and that lost chance. I didn't even feel like passing on the message. Instead, I just wandered off while I tried to clear my thoughts. Eavesdropping hadn't worked. The box was under constant surveillance, and I doubted asking directly would help. It's harder than it looks. I knew I should have gone into being a thief. Then I could have at least snuck in and listened in instead. Or at least lock-picked. The bushes beside me rustled, and I automatically drew my sword and pointed at the leaves. I heard a small cry of protest. Your reflexes are scary. It's just me. I blinked and lowered my sword. Oh, hey! Ilmari crawled out from under the bush and grumbled, brushing dirt off his clothes indignantly. No wonder Care made me contact you first. I heard a chuckle not far from Ilmari, and Care emerged from behind a tree. I sheathed my sword, feeling the tension leave my body. You too! How did you find me? Did you find the note?
What?
Note? Ilmari glanced at Gare, who shrugged. No, we just asked how to get to Norville, and this is the main road everyone uses. It was pretty easy to catch up after that. Were you able to ascertain the box's contents? I shook my head sadly. No, I've attempted multiple times, but there's been no real opportunity. Ugh, you had all day, too. Hey, you try to be discreet when surrounded by 9 people, most of them armed. If there was just some sort of distraction, maybe I could. The 3 of us fell silent as we pondered.
Bring it.
I say we just pose as bandits and confront them. I'll keep the knights busy while Aura checks. Ilmari groaned.
I'd rather not.
I'd rather not resort to violence, especially since we don't know if the box actually contains dragon remains. And what do we do if it does, exactly? Take it, of course. I don't want them used for anything. Dragonkind are naturally magical, and even remains be imbued with magic. Then, if they took the cargo, it meant the mission would be classified as a failure. My KIT record would be tarnished, and it would prolong my efforts to be knighted. I gripped my badge, then opened my palm as I stared at it in deliberation. Kara and Elmari seemed to have sensed my hesitation, so I looked up and grinned.
Yeah.
If it comes to that, let's do it. But Auralee, are you sure? Please, it'd just be a minor setback. I shoved the badge into my pocket. This is something important to you, and you need to know that I can be relied on.
Let's do this.
If the contents do contain remains, you can trust me to seize the box.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what non-violent distraction do you two have in mind? Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm out of ideas. Yeah, well, we know you just want to beat everybody up. Of course. Amari, how versatile is your magic?
Of course.
Oh, I could create a thick fog. It'll limit their vision and you can sneak around better. I can throw in a tremor here or there to slow them down. About that.
I'd rather not.
Care will have to avoid using earthquakes. They frighten Auralee. I cringed, not wanting that to be blurted out openly. Care stared at me in shock, followed by remorse. The whole time? I had no idea. It's fine, Care. I didn't want to bring it up. It's just something that happened in the past, and this is not the time or place to discuss it. Elmari will go with a fog distraction. Care, I'm sure you can think of something to frighten the knights without causing jolts. Vision will be limited, and we can't hear as well as you two. Just as I said that, their ears perked up. Both of them glanced toward the direction of the carriage. They're leaving soon. You better return. Kara and I will run ahead to set our trap. Right. Be careful. I immediately jogged back and took my position beside the horses. I felt bad deceiving the knights, but it was the only way to know if the coffer held dragon remains. Please just be normal cargo. I slowly moved closer to the carriage and eventually let it pass me as I pretended to guard the rear. I would need to position myself optimally. The air around me cooled, causing me to shiver. Oh, fog of war. A mist emerged from the ground and shrouded us. Many of the knights paused and the carriage slowed down. Fog at this time? But it was clear just a second ago. I heard a loud roar. Something rammed into one of the knights and they instantly vanished into the mist, causing the others to panic. Was that a ghost? Whoa, effective. Creepy, but effective. Swords drawn, the knights formed a tightly knit group to defend themselves. I took this opportunity to dash to the carriage and throw open the door. I heard another thud, followed by a scream. Dervishi huddled on the seat when I barged in. I tugged on his arm. It's not safe here. You need to get out of here now. Out of the corner of my eye, I spied the box on the floor. I yanked on Dervishi's arm again, and he reluctantly got out. As soon as he was outside, I dove inside and shut the door. Hey! Sorry! I snatched up the box and proceeded to exit out the other side. Or tried to, until I realized the door was locked from the inside. These doors! Foiled again! Infuriated that my plans were being thwarted by wooden barriers, I pushed open the other door, nearly smacking the client in the face as I slipped out. Sorry again! He saw that I had the box, and his eyes widened in outrage. Traitor! Thief! I ducked and darted around the carriage, alarming the horses as I headed straight into the thickest part of the mist. I heard the knights scrambling to find me as Dervishi screamed orders at them. Hard pounding, I increased the distance between us. The mist cleared as I reached a steep slope. I momentarily looked down, then glanced back as I heard more clamors. I jumped down, my body slightly angled. I staggered awkwardly as I landed, trying not to hit a tree or trip on a root. That would have been bad. Did I get away? And the others? Remembering that I still had the box, I knelt down and hastily unlatched it. I opened it up and inhaled sharply. Inside were beautiful long objects that resembled shale with an emerald sheen. They were exactly like Care's ears. Underneath were hard flint-like stones with beautiful grooves and ridges. Scales? This is bad. And it was possible this wasn't just a one-time delivery. If the first carriage had also carried dragon remains, it could be a full-fledged underground trading route. How long has this been going on? How did the knights not know? Wouldn't they check the contents? I guess they're kind of in the whole don't ask, don't tell situation. They're just like, I'm doing my job. Unless I shut the box, pushing it underneath a shrub for now before standing up. I needed to inform Care and Ilmari. Before I could take another step, the earth suddenly erupted. A large fish erupted at my feet, causing me to fall back. Showered in dirt, I coughed and trembled uncontrollably, unable to stand up. Not so reckless now, are you? Dervishi stood about 20 paces away, his tame peddler appearance replaced by a sinister countenance. What? How did you— Is he a dragon too? Casually resting on his shoulder was a mace, decorated with spikes that resembled hard tissues. Namely bones and oversized teeth. Is he making weapons out of the dragon's remains? I got up unsteadily, supporting myself against a tree. You'll be surprised how much power dragon bones can grant you. Everything is permeated with magic, even long after they die. Why are you doing this? Who are you delivering these remains to? He snorted and rolled his eyes. Please, I'm not going to explain everything just because you asked. Just return the box, and you'll be left unharmed. Now, where did you put it? I unsheathed my sword and widened my stance, hoping not to falter now. I'm not handing it over. Pity, I hate searching. Lifting the mace, he slammed it onto the ground. Ugh. Another chasm opened up and I screamed, my body paralyzed by every vibration. It was then that I heard a loud creak behind me. I glanced up in terror. One of the trees became unstable and it groaned as it started to lean heavily. Dervishi pointed the mace at me threateningly. Move and the next attack will crush you. I stood up, but stayed in place. My legs felt so weak I probably couldn't walk if I tried. I heard footsteps approaching and I prayed it was my friends. Instead, 4 of the original 7 knights joined Dervishi. They glanced at each other, obviously baffled by the situation, but obediently aligned themselves before the merchant. She's the one who ran off with the goods. I don't know who she's working for, but since she's refusing to cooperate, give it back and we won't hold this action against you. Wait, I'm not betraying anyone. The box has dragon remains. It's sacrilegious to move them. Their souls can't return to— Be quiet! We know what we're delivering, and that's just a silly superstition. Superstition? What you're doing is discourteous to dragonkind. Aren't you a KIT? Why are you disobeying orders? Do you want to throw away your chance to become a full knight? One of the other knights sighed and tried speaking to me more gently. Don't you think you're being too impulsive here? You're obviously young, with a lot of pressure to your name. Don't do something rash and tarnish Argent Varlair's reputation with your disloyalty. It's our duty as knights to carry out our mission with the guild and clients' best interests in mind. No, what I'm doing is more important. This is for both dragonkind and heavenkind's sake.
Let's do this.
I'm not surrendering those remains. Sensing that my resolve would not yield, the knights brandished their weapons at me. Then I'll just report to the guild that you got caught in an unfortunate accident. Smirking, Dervishi slammed his weapon into the ground 2 more times. Each shock washed over me, rendering me motionless. There was an ear-splitting crack as the tree began to topple. Aura! Amari's desperate voice suddenly shifted into a growl, and a large turquoise body sailed over me. He transformed back to save me? A section of Ilmari's long neck slammed into the thick trunk as he halted his fall. His tail thrashed as he roared, straining against the weight. Ilmari was a water dragon. He couldn't move on land effectively, and he had essentially pinned himself to protect me. Ilmari! His large face turned to me. His expression was unreadable in dragon form, but I sensed his concern. I'm fine, and you were right about what the box contained. The knight seemed to waver, intimidated by the dragon's presence. Slay that dragon! Consider this out of self-defense, and you will be paid tenfold for its corpse. Don't be scared, look how helpless it is. Ilmari snarled, but his only real weapon was his teeth and tail, and he was immobile. He couldn't transport back either, else he risked being flattened by the tree. Where was Care? I altered my stance, inviting the knights to take me on. With numbers on their side, they advanced toward me until one of the more impatient ones broke from her position. I dashed forward, swinging my sword as it met the first knight. She parried and thrust her sword forward. I sidestepped, but had to duck as an axe soared over me. Wait! Knights are supposed to fight one-on-one! Ah! I spun around and kicked the axeman in the back of the knee. I knew I dealt with warriors more experienced than me. Maybe I could hold my own in an individual fight, but... My minor victory was short-lived when I felt a hot pain sear my left arm. I hissed in pain, realizing that I had received a shallow cut from a blade. Blood trickled down my elbow. That moment of hesitation left me open, and I barely blocked another attack. The axemen and swordswomen were overwhelming me, and I frantically tried to keep them at bay. With each swing, their weapons grew dangerously closer, and each blow reverberated up my sword arm. More blood spilled as the steel blade bit into my torso, and I cried out. Ilmari's roar was deafening, and suddenly Axeman was hit with a full blast of water, causing him to topple over. "Auralee, stay near me!" His guttural voice startled me since I had no idea he could talk in his dragon form. Looking back, I saw Ilmari urgently stretch his neck out in an attempt to shield me, his fangs fully bared. I retreated closer to him as my 3 opponents surrounded me. One sprinted toward Ilmari, who was focused on another knight, aiming his sword at the dragon's neck. "No!" I blocked his attack, trying not to buckle under the strain. Forcing my whole weight forward, I managed to push him back. "Hey, there's Kier." I heard swift footsteps a second later, and the knight I fought suddenly flew back from a nasty punch. "Kier!" He flashed me a confident grin. Sorry, I was preoccupied with a few others. There will be no reinforcements after this. 2 down, 3 to go, including Dervishi. Kier spotted Ilmari, and his face flickered in pain. I gestured to the merchant and his mace. "Kier, stop him now! That weapon causes earthquakes!" Kier charged again, but the swordswoman blocked him. The other knight who possessed a flail focused on me. Although the flail's range was short, its battering power was enough to make me wary. As I dodged an attack, I stepped back, and my foot found nothing but air. Tumbling, I dove to the side to avoid falling into the chasm, leaving me vulnerable. Before I could roll away, the dirt beside me burst as the steel ball slammed down inches from my head. Discarding my sword, I grabbed the chain before the knight could raise his weapon and wrenched it out of his grasp. He stumbled toward me as I rotated to my back. I placed a well-aimed kick to his stomach, and he staggered back. I quickly retrieved my sword and scrambled up. Desperate, he bolted for his weapon, but a strong stream of water from Ilmari caused him to topple into the chasm. Kier had already incapacitated his opponent, leaving only Dervishi, who had retreated enough to be out of Ilmari's attack range. We caught up to him. "If you cast aside your weapon, no one will get hurt. Were you simply following orders? If I turn you in, me, turned in, you're the one who stole a merchant's goods. There's no penalty for possessing dragon remains. The other knights will report what happened, and you'll be stripped of your rank, and..." He recklessly slammed his mace into the ground, unsympathetic to the unconscious or wounded knights around him. Terrified, I dropped my sword and knelt down, resisting the urge to cry out. Ilmari roared as the tremors caused a tree to abrade painfully against his scales. Kier bounded forward, unfazed by the attacks. Before Dervishi could launch another assault, Kier's fist met his cheek. The merchant went flying, and his body slammed and tumbled against the hard terrain. On his knees, Dervishi threw a fit and repeatedly pounded the ground with the mace. Every strike resounded and increased each tremor's intensity.
Whoa.
"Stop! If you keep that up..." Kier had to leap away before the ground nearly swallowed him up. Deep fissures appeared and split, causing the ground to distort. Loose dirt rained down from the steeper slopes. It was as if the entire region was going to liquefy. Like a spiderweb, the ground around Dervishi groaned and heaved. I couldn't move. I could only watch helplessly. "Wait!" The merchant gawked and slipped back, but Kier caught him just before he vanished into the gaping new ravine. The mace slipped from his grip, disappearing into darkness and giving one final tremor. Kier forcibly threw Dervishi onto solid ground. I slowly regained my balance, but I was determined to remain strong. Dervishi crumbled to the dirt in a supine position, and I instantly pointed my blade at his exposed neck. "It's over. You're nothing without that weapon, so just get lost." His forehead beaded with sweat as he nodded fervently, all of his fight gone. You're just going to let him go? He used dragon remains for a weapon. Disgusting. I'm not going to kill him, and Arg and Valere is aware of what's going on. They would probably protect him. Then who could I turn to? Dervishi wriggled out from under my sword and tried to make a hasty withdrawal. Care simply punched his lights out. A little extreme there? He not only tried to kill us, but he put his own men in danger. I should just ask Ilmari to eat him. I don't think he'd agree to that. A distressed roar caught our attention. Yeah, he's kind of still stuck under a tree, isn't he? Speaking of him, Ilmari. Forgetting about the merchant, we hurried back to where Ilmari was. Kara surveyed the situation and ran under the trunk, positioning himself close to Ilmari's neck. You really don't do well on land. Ilmari hissed, unamused by Kara's comment. With a heavy hoist, Kara pushed up the trunk with exceptional strength. Mist formed around them. As the tree crashed back to the ground, I scrambled to Ilmari's side. He was kneeling down and moaning. Ilmari, are you okay? That was so reckless. I'll be fine. Ugh, my neck is going to be sore for a week. He was on the verge of tears. But what about you? Those injuries, I couldn't stop them. Sobbing, he clung to me, burying his head into my shoulder.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was useless. That was the best I could do. I patted his back reassuringly. You were anything but useless, Ilmari. I wouldn't have survived if you hadn't come to my rescue. I felt like I didn't do much myself. If anything, the person who helped us the most was... We both turned to Kara expectantly, who flinched from our tender expressions. He coughed and gave us a haughty glare, placing his hands on his hips. That's right, I did most of the work. Sheesh, both of you are pitiful.
Whoa.
Wait, what are you doing? Group hug! We both embraced Kara, refusing to let him escape. Parasites. I laughed and stepped back while Kara had to apply more force to free himself from Ilmari. Remembering the box, I returned to its hiding spot and pulled it out from under the shrub. I was surprised it managed to make it through unscathed. Moments later, the other two surrounded me and peered over my shoulders as I unfastened the latch. Earth Dragon. Using our remains for weapons? Ugh. Let's bury them, somewhere away from this battlefield, in case they decide to look for them. While Kara fetched the mace, Ilmari and I walked until we reached the farthest fissure we could find. We were surprised by how much the region was affected by the mace's powers, and Kara worked diligently to pry the remains from the weapon. He tossed them into the chasm. He then picked up the box and emptied it over the fissure. He placed an open palm on the soil, and I stepped back, preparing myself for one of his abilities. The ground trembled slightly as debris and soil loosened, filling up a section of the rupture. When it was over, I sighed, feeling utterly exhausted. I've had enough earthquakes for one day. I'm completely shaken up, no pun intended. I mustered a weak giggle, while Ilmari groaned. Heavenkind humor. It's bad. Oh, trust me, there are plenty of other people besides Heavenkind who make silly puns. Kara wiped the dirt off his hands. What now? I grabbed my knight in training badge and glanced at it. A dismissive wave, I tossed it to the ground, surprising them both. You sure about this? It's something you worked for. Maybe if you return and explain to the guild? He stopped when he saw me shake my head. No, the Arg and Valere guild is in on this. I don't want anything to do with them or the knights. Besides, Dervishi had a point. The other knights will report what happened. I'll have no chance to redeem myself after that betrayal. I'm done. I took a few steps forward and turned to them so I could address them properly. Let's go home. Besides, I think this is something you should inform your masters about as soon as possible. If we can't rely on the guild to build a rapport between Heavenkind and Dragonkind, we'll need another angle. We headed back to the main road, careful of the steep slope and the chasms the fight had created. The carriage was gone, we saw no other knights. Kara explained that he had managed to drive them off, which is why it took him a while to come to our rescue. Without my knowing, I started to linger behind the two, my feet dragging slower with each step. The other two noticed and turned worryingly.
Are you okay?
Well, she did just lose her dream. I would say she would be upset. Aura? chuckled in an attempt to ease their worries, but the tears appeared anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine. If anything, I feel like a huge burden was lifted off my shoulders. But it still hurts. I wanted to be a knight for years, and now I'm accepting it'll never happen. I worked so hard. My shoulders shuddered and I covered my face, feeling pathetic and worthless. I sensed someone standing before me, and I glanced up. Care glowered, unimpressed. He gave me a light smack to the forehead. Ow! What was that for? You could have had a V8. Oh, true, but that wouldn't have solved my problems. Care. I rubbed the spot indignantly. Didn't I tell you this before? That's just a title?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Knights are supposed to help those in need. I think a certain someone has already been a knight for a while, in spirit anyway. And in the end, you did the right thing. We can't thank you enough.
Thanks.
Thanks. As we walked, I expressed concern over being sought out, and the others reassured me that nothing like that would happen. I did uncover an unsettling activity that would need to be confronted after all. They would seek protection from other dragons to watch over Barry, and my heart sank when they avoided the notion that they would be the ones guarding. Guess they still had amends to make. Oh. Well, we're not done with this baby yet. Now we're back home. Interesting. Huh. Well, that was quite an interesting way to wrap up that chapter. But I suppose we'll continue this in the next part and see where this goes. We're gonna have to explain to Mommy Dearest about this too. Oh boy. But that will be for the next time. For now, this is StarPrincessHLC saying thank you very much for watching, and have a fond farewell.